And I got back in bed, and I just turned over just to get comfy, and an arm came up from under the bed, through the bed, and round me, and the other one came over me, and this thing grabbed hold of me. As I normally do, I'm furious, I don't scare, I'm furious, I'm angry, I'm fighting this thing off. And I struggled to get this thing off. In the meantime, the process of that was I'd ripped the bed covers off, the pillow was on the floor, the duvet, it was half ripped off, and yet the partner didn't wake up. And she wakes up, a little drop of it, she didn't wake up. And I knew then it's phenomena.
Welcome back. I'm here again with Steve Mera. Steve, welcome back. At the end of the last episode, let's see. Oh, so
did I leave it on a cliffhanger there, Sean?
Yeah. It was like abrupt too. I was just like, okay, it's just good. People will be waiting to find out what the answer was. So we talked about paranormal phenomena in the last episode, or traditionally paranormal phenomena, poltergeists, hauntings, and a number of other things. And you started talking about the UFO phenomena. How is this overall broader paranormal? These effects, how are they related to the UFO phenomena?
It's interesting how people get to that from the paranormal, because to get to that, we had to understand how the paranormal phenomena can interact with our reality, and the physics that we thought existed just are shattered right before our eyes. And just seeing that and just experiencing that, purposeful demonstrations by them and how they do this is just incredible. And it doesn't make any sense, because the sense we understand is a rigid box called physics of our reality. And that's the problem. We live in the confines of this box and can't accept anything else, but we have to. We really do. And there were experiments done where there were old radios used, and they were communicating with these, some of them, whatever these things were, because you never really know what they are. And it was put into a Faraday cage, a very specialized design Faraday cage, so no transmissions could ever get in and out, and yet it still functioned. And the tubes of the radio that made it work were removed from the radio. The functioning area of the radio was taken out, and it still worked. In cassette recordings during the Skull experiment, cassettes were going around and recording the conversations. As a test, the power was pulled out from the tape recorder, and we could still see it physically moving around. So the tape recorder was still obtaining power, even though there was no power plug in it.
Did it still record?
It still recorded. So the next step was to remove the recording head. So you take out the tape, you can unscrew the recording head and put the cassette back in. And we put it on to record, and again it started to go round without any power. And we thought, we can't record anything now. Oh yes, it did. It recorded exactly the same. It didn't even need a recording head. In fact, the phenomena needs power. It doesn't need the recording head. What it's doing is something that we discovered is called transplacement. Transplacement means I can put what I want on that device in the means I want to, without the normal physical means that you require. And it can do it on tape recorders. We did experiments. Olympus, very big company in this type of equipment, were our sponsors at the time, and the engineers were involved. And these tests, we had 3 exact same models of recorders being used. And in a silent environment, just for a short period of time, we couldn't hear anything. When we played it back, we had a male voice on one, a female voice on the other, and just pops and clicks on the third one. We don't even know what the pops and clicks were, really, to be honest. They were on. But it wanted to demonstrate we can do this and pop it on whenever they want to. So it's targeting the equipment, and the phenomena targets us as well, because now we know that we can suddenly hear something. I just heard this. Well, the recorder's running there. Did it pick it up? No. Why didn't the recorder hear it? Why didn't the recorder tape it? Record it. It's designed to record harmonic sounds. If you've heard it, it has to be harmonic, because your ear vibrates the harmonic sounds. You recognize it. No, because what happens was it transplaces it, so we hear it, so we're pieces of equipment, and the recorders don't get it. Sometimes it's the other way around. We hear nothing in a silent environment, but the recorder captures it. You all see these TV shows of ghost hunters and things like that. And if you call out about an EVP, now most of them aren't very good, to be honest, but occasionally you might think, yeah, that sounds like an EVP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, nobody goes on to question then, well, hang on a second, just whoa, let's rewind back. That recorder, let's look at the specifics of this recorder. This recorder is designed to record from, say, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, which is your vocal range.
Right.
It's not designed to record anything else because you wouldn't hear it. What's the point?
Right. Right.
But the recorder didn't record it. Why didn't it record it yet? We heard it.
In the far future, soldiers of the Starship Supernova are thrown back in time. Cut off from reinforcements, they crash land in Earth's prehistoric past. A plan is hatched to escape this primordial landscape. Menaced by dinosaurs and prehistoric beasts, it's a race against time in an ancient world. In the chaos that follows, they soon discover an even deadlier adversary lurking in the jungles, threatening to trap them all forever in the prehistoric wilderness. Triacid, available on Kindle, paperback, and audiobook.
Well, how do we hear it then? Well, it can't be harmonic if we're hearing it. We might think it is because we hear it, but it can't be because the recorders wouldn't record it. So then we get into questioning, of course, okay, the physicality of this. Now, this is what the phenomenon does. It's no different than telepathy. When you got the UFO stuff, the entities, the non-human entities, these intelligences, communication, it's the same thing. It's transplacement. It's not telepathic, it's transplacement. What they're doing is that they are talking to you what we might refer to as in a telepathic state, using us as pieces of equipment and putting it into us to understand. And we can hear them in our heads. It's channeling, communications, things like that taking place for many years. But now there's a science behind it, and now we're starting to realize how it ticks. Because what it's doing is it's bypassing the eardrum, and it's going to the inner ear, the cochlea. And there's a channel there of liquid and hairs, and it's causing them to affect. And when it does, the brain's recognizing it as speech, but the eardrum's not moving because there's no harmonics in the air. There's no equipment to record harmonics with because it's not picking up on those equipment. Wonderful areas of the sciences that we're figuring out. Well, hang on a second. That is absolutely no different when people say, I saw a non-human entity and it talked to me telepathically. We hear them cases all the time. Absolutely no different. It's exactly the same phenomenon. It's just termed differently. In the UFO world, it's called telepathic communication. In our world, it's called as transplacement communication. But it's the same phenomenon, just a different name. So when we realized we got into that, we thought, okay, so hang on, well, this is similar to UFO stuff. Well, what are the parameters of UFO phenomena? Does that have a mechanism? And is it the same type of mechanism? When I talked to you about that strange diathermic alteration in the aborted mug, when we started into the UFO research, we hit it right. There was a belter, this one. We came across a case, and it was a UFO. It never was seen to travel. It just manifested close to the ground. A number of people saw this, independent people, traveling vehicles, all sorts of different things. And they all reported to say, I've seen this craft in this field manifest. Now, scientist guys came out, and I think that might have been a MUFON case. Scientist guys came out, and they realized that the plants in that area close to the ground were all affected. They were stunted, they were slightly discolored, there was something not quite right with them. So they took samples of these, and it was referred to, I saw the report, it was referred to as a plant biological traumatology test. When they put it under analysis, what did they see? They saw exactly the same diathermic alterations in the plants as they did in our aborted mug. So we had a kind of bit of a light bulb moment, and we thought, okay, so does the manifestation of a UFO and the manifestation of an aborted mug utilize the same physics here? And if they are, why? Because if UFOs are traveling from some vast distant planet from somewhere else, distance of space to travel to Earth, then why should it be utilizing the same mechanics here in the manifestation process as an ancient earthly phenomenon we refer to as the paranormal? Doesn't make much sense, this. So we thought, okay, so we started looking more and more down this path. And then I had a long conversation with a gentleman, a friend of mine actually, Robert Salas is his name.
I've interviewed him. Malmstrom.
Yeah. Now, I know about the incident, I know what happened, and it's all very intriguing. I know these things do happen. But I was interested in the report from the investigation of the Warheads.
To advertise on Through a Glass Darkly, email throughaglassdarkly@gmail.com.
Because they were
The
reacting.
bench test, right?
Now, I don't know if you ever see, if you want to bring up an image sometime and we look at one of those warheads, there's no screws, there's no rivets, there's no little door to get into the warhead. It's a sealed, complete unit. And it's done like that purposely so people can't get in there and this, and change things and do something. They're completely sealed off. So a special team comes in, have to remove the warheads off them. And then they have to get in from underneath. Literally got to demanufacture it to get into the warhead. And according to the report, when they got in there, they were shocked to see that it had been physically damaged, physically pulled, ripped apart in areas. And I thought, well, there's your sex. That's the same phenomena as it can manipulate metaphysical stuff, in a sense of speech. Tape recorders, radios, and they can move things and they can get in there and do this. And I thought to myself, okay, well, there's another little tick in the box that phenomenon can also do the same as well. That has a metaphysical aspect to it. And the more we started looking into this, we realized we need to start focusing in the UFO phenomena. And we're paranormal parapsychologist guys, we all thought, UFOs is a bit, but we thought, okay, we're going to have to do that. Well, it was very surprising because once we opened that door, we just got these ticks and we go, well, that's the same as that. The inducing of paralysis in paranormal experiences, shadowy figures being seen in the bedroom, you woke up, there's a ghost in the corner, whatever you want to call it, and you can't move. You're paralyzed until it releases you in some sense. Exactly the same thing in a UFO field. Light coming through the window, 3 small grey non-human intelligences in the room, you're paralyzed, can't you? And what we realized is that the phenomena isn't causing that. You're causing it. Because when we go to sleep at night in REM process, we literally try and get, just minutes. 20 minutes is REM is good enough for us. We spend 8 hours in bed, tossing and turning and moving over and around. It's interesting if you ever record yourself, because you're like moving all night.
Oh, yeah.
When you're not moving, you're probably asleep. But the thing is that very little is that REM. Most of it is hypnagogic, hypnagogic, and coming in and coming out of that process, hypnopompic, and you're spending most of your night in that state. Occasionally, you'll grab that REM, and you only need 20 minutes. That's why people can sleep all night and think, "Oh, I've had a great night's sleep. I'm really tired." I don't have much REM. Or some people have trained themselves to go to bed for only 3 hours and then to enter REM fast, and literally only need 3 hours sleep per night. It's all down to it's various in different people. But there's a mechanism that takes place during REM, and it's known as output blockade and input blockade. And from the psychological side, you'll get those studies and you look, okay, it's interesting what happens to us, because during REM, what our brain does, these little signals there, our brain switches off our ears. So during REM, you won't hear nothing. Absolutely, because the information coming from your ears is just been cut off in the brain during REM. There's also something referred to as output blockade. And the reason is that it's so that you don't act out your dreams and lash out and stuff. Now, people have said to me, oh, I've lashed out my partner accidentally. Well, that's because you're in hypnagogic state. You're coming in or just going out, and you've managed to just cross that area. But in REM, you're paralyzed. You cannot move. That's cut out as well. The brain does it. So these little triggers are already in the brain. So all the phenomena does in the paranormal world is come along and press the right buttons, manipulation of us. And then we're paralyzed. We're thinking the phenomena's doing it. Oh, no, it's just pressing the buttons, Well, that's how manipulative they can be. The same for the UFO phenomena. It's the same process, exactly the same. So we know that, okay, there's another tick. And the more we started looking, the more we started realizing that the UFO phenomena is something that demonstrates metaphysicality. And we started getting into the study of the UAP phenomena under the aspects of the paranormal connotations. And that became a subject of its own and a project of its own called Project Doorway. And Project Doorway is the 8 years we're in now at trying to figure out the mechanics of the UFO phenomena. And to be honest with you, it's basically the same mechanics as the paranormal. There is no difference. And we were surprised when we saw this compartmentalization, the paranormal, metaphysical, supernatural, spiritual, ufological, and everybody was staying in their own camps. The paranormal guys would do UFO guys. And if you thought, we're never going to get a clear picture. The guys are wasting their time in paranormal, just because I know I've been there, and they're wasting time in ufological because I've been, I'm in there now. And I'm thinking, you're never going to get an answer because what you're looking for isn't in that camp, it's in our camp. And you've got to look in the paranormal camp and parapsychological camp to get that answer. So what we decided to do is tear all the boxes down. Because there's no compartmentalization. It's just called phenomenology. Put it out in front of you. And then look for what exists within it. And when you do, then you get a bigger, clearer picture of what's going on than you would do just staying in the footprint of ufology. So that's what we did. And we've been working in that area now. And we recognize that the manifestation process does take place in a lot of these objects. Statistically speaking, there's no superhighway going backwards and forwards to Earth. There's serious reports on this. Hynek in 1977, when he was a secret committee, and he stated on the record, there's not enough evidence to support this. This is extraterrestrial anomaly. He got shunned a bit for that and ended up going to work with Valley for 3 years because Valley said the same thing and he got shunned. And NASA just released a document, was it last year? This committee meeting was to focus on UFO phenomena. Yes, they know UFOs are seen. Yes, they've been reported. Yes, they're being captured on photographs and videos. However, their data says we've not enough evidence for it's extraterrestrial. If you just look at the statistics, now around the world on a 24-hour basis, with something ridiculous between 8 and 20 seconds per sighting. That's thousands upon thousands of UFOs seen around the world on a daily basis. Okay, some of them, we've got to be conservative, of course, but some of them are misidentifications. Some of them are fake. But even if you remove half of them, there's still thousands and thousands of these things. Where are they coming from? Because they don't seem to be traveling backwards and forward. You get some bits, you get some little things. But you're not getting a mass amount of superhighway of traffic going through our ionosphere and back. There's no ionospheric tracing markers. They're not seeing that. NASA aren't finding that, that where they're all coming from. So we started to look in the plausibility process of, is it like the paranormal when they manifest? Mm-hmm. Started to check into, is there geological connections to it? And there are. There are geological connections to it. We took 2,000 of the best cases in the world in UFO stuff. And I'm talking you real big ones, You would know if you managed to pick up a book, encyclopedia on UFOs, they're going to put them in it. Hopkinsville incident, and Flatwoods Monster and Zamora and all those amazing cases. Mm-hmm. We couldn't believe it. We sort of, surely it can't be right. Surely somebody's picked this up. Utilizing a number of satellites orbiting Earth, we realized that they're in geological locations of magnetic anomalies. 250 plus nanotesla, in fact. Thought, okay, that's interesting because so's Skinwalker Ranch, so's Bachelor Ranch, so's Wilson Ranch. What's the statistics of chances of this is happening? Is extra low, Though that we're not saying that, no, phenomenon doesn't take place in negative reasons. Of course it does, but the materialization process and the key points seem to be there, the most significant instance. Aerial school in Rua, same thing. They're all in these same regions. And we thought, well, that can't be by chance. So we had to prove it. We were able to scientifically do the reverse role. So now we're going to let the data test. So what we do is we get the data, we get a geological location, latitude, longitude. Where do we need to be? Well, it turned out we needed to be in the desert mountains of Palm Springs, funny enough. So we headed off there to conduct the test. And we got there, beautiful night, middle of nowhere, not a human soul for miles and miles and miles, just us and the heavens. And we set up equipment We knew we were in the right location geologically, expecting phenomena to manifest in some way. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then my colleague said, okay, Steve, let's get all the equipment away. Because we've got to consider we've just come into their territory. It's not the other way around it. They're not interacting with us. We've come to interact with them. So we did. And as soon as we put all the equipment in the trunk and shut that trunk, bang, there it was. It manifested. And this thing was big. It was above us, and it had beautiful arcing lights on it, beautiful colours. And we were just all in awe. We're just staring at this thing, we're in awe. But something was happening is that we noticed, and I noticed it from a paranormal background, and my friend Barry Fitzgerald, who's my colleague, he confirmed this and this practice of teaching and identifying phenomena, that our bodies were reacting in a way where it was going into alert, like, you know, the fight or flight. And we get that during paranormal phenomena. We're used to it, you know, the head was up in your head. That is the fight or flight. That is your body telling you that instinctually, that thing, that mechanism we have. Just because you don't see something, just don't hear something, your body knows there's something there, and it's telling you, I don't like it, get the hell out. That's basically what it's doing. But what we do is we tend to, oh, right, okay, well, this might be an interesting area. But when your body's doing that, it's a mechanism, it's a survival mechanism. And it was happening at this time, and we thought, that's unusual, you know, because this ain't paranormal, is it? Or is it? You know, because you start asking, well, what is paranormal? Well, it's all paranormal. All the evidence supports in the mechanics is paranormal phenomena we're dealing with in the UFO world. And when we realized that was happening, it was Barry actually caught my attention. He said, we need to leave. And of course, none of us wanted to, because we're in the midst of this experience, you know. And we had a torch. Barry was flashing the torch out, and he was communicating back in the light source. But it was because of that uneasiness, and we had this feeling that, you know, Barry said, we need to go, we need to get out of here. And I'm glad we did, because, you know what, there was something going on in the background, in the darkness behind us. I don't know if there was something on the ground or what, but it was pitch black, the desert. There's no lights up there. But there was something on there. There was definitely something there. And we hot-tailed it out, to be honest with you. You know, we're not stupid, but we got out of there. We like to be in control of the experience that we might experience, so we can pull away. But then in the back of our minds, we were in their location. We'd stepped into their domain. They don't like it. They like the regions of the desert. They keep away from us. They like to go about business. And we cut their eye. They probably thought, what the hell? You know, we don't want you guys here. You know, and we got out of there. We realized that from that we were right about the research, because we reverse tested it. In other words, we took the data, proved it, and we had the experience. So we thought, okay. And since then, we've been working in that area. Now, what happened was we started putting these documents together for peer reviewing. And the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies, which is in America.
Yeah, SCU.
You know the SCU. Joe, who runs who's the SCU, contacted me and asked me if I would consider joining the SCU after knowing our research and stuff. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so all right. And I know that some people in very highly places like Hal Puthoff and other people have had some association with SCU. I was told that he was aware of our work, and there may have been correlations in some of the work that's been done. And I did ask the question, because we're aware that the UFO phenomena can go into the hillsides, can go into mountains, can go into volcanoes. And yet, the only thing anyone's talking about is transmedium travel. I said, it's not transmedium travel, it's quad medium travel. Because we're coming from paranormal, parapsychology side, we're going to say that. It's natural for us. We're used to seeing quad phenomena in the parapsychological circles. So why shouldn't it be in the UFO? And we knew it was, because we got the data to show it. And, you know, we were told that, yes, we know about it, but we can't put that out because we're trying to gain interest from the scientific community. And we can't drop that on the legs, on that lap, because they'll just thought they were crazy. We don't want to discourage them. We want to encourage them. So we'll keep it at transmedium travel for now. Eventually, we'll get into the quad medium travel. But then when we realize...
What's it called? What's it? Quad medium?
Quad medium, yeah. I mean, it can travel in the water, it can travel in the air, travel in space, can travel into non-physical stuff, ground.
Okay, yeah.
This is why we've got footage of UFOs.
Yeah, it's just 4 modes of travel, basically. It's the
quad medium travel, yeah. They're only putting, the 3 out at the moment, transmedium. So it's not. It's actually quadmatic or quad medium travel. But we've got evidence. We see UFO footage, real UFO, when it is the phenomenon. So a lot of stuff is ours, of course, but we don't want to get into that. But they have theirs, and it acts in a certain way beyond out. Sometimes, because they can be metaphysical, then you might see them as a physical thing. No, they're not interacting in our reality properly. This is why we can have UFOs being filmed in FLIR cameras or normal cameras entering into the water, and there's no wake, there's no trail, there's no heat signatures, there's no sonic booms. And that's because it's outside of our understanding of reality. Just as I can put my hand to a vase. Same process, exactly the same thing. It's there. If I filmed it, it's there. Is it real? Not really. That's the problem. It's the same physics that are being utilized here, again, with that phenomena. And I thought, okay, this is all paranormal. It's all paranormal. I thought, well, once we get into that, we started realizing that this has been known for quite some time. For many, many years, the non-human intelligences behind the UFO phenomena. And of course, the UFOs is the phenomena. Don't ever think the UFO is a vehicle for the phenomena. It can be when it wants to choose to be, but it isn't. It's all one phenomena. Even the UFOs, the crafts themselves, the real phenomena, it can change, multiply, split, change, alter. It can become into two. It can re-merge, mold, change its shape. It can pretend to be aircraft. It can be all sorts of different things. And it's incredible. There has been some which have turned into some light aircraft. There has been ones where appendages have come out and he started pinging a 727 to the local airport. It's crazy. But they're clever. And they know how to manipulate and deceive. And when we realized what was going on, we thought, okay, let's track it back. And we started tracking it back and we realized, well, hang on a second, this first appears, these non-human intelligences don't first appear in association to anything UFO. They first appeared around the sales tables. That's when they first appeared. Nothing to do with UFO whatsoever. And of course, if you track it back further, my colleague...
Like the Jack Parsons ritual in the desert.
Jack Parsons, he does what we did. He pushed through the boundary of the poltergeist. That's what we call it, pushing through the poltergeist boundary. It's a form of ritualistic invocation, in the sense of speaking. And it sounds worse than it is, to be honest with you, because people naturally think, oh, it's demons and demons and demonic.
Yeah, they think it's all satanic, right.
They think it's demons and demonic stuff. It's all the same phenomena. It's all just a different mask. It's still the same phenomena, being different things. That's all it is at the end of the day. And the aspects of demonology and all that sort of thing, it's just the same stuff. But when we realized that you push through the bounds, so in other words, invocation, eventually you start getting paranormal disturbances, then it gets to a range of poltergeist phenomena. Most people back off at that point. But if you're consistent and you can do it with your experiments, you can push through the boundary of the power of the poltergeist phenomena.
Yeah, you lean into it, right?
And then you're into NHI realm, which is your non-human entities, your non-human intelligences. That's what happened in Skull. And then he started appearing, then he started being recorded on film and camera. My friend Robin Froy is no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago. He was head of the Skull experiment. And, his books are really good. It don't tell you next to nothing, of course, of what really went on. And I used to have long conversations with Robin, but that phenomenon never left him. Once those things turned up, they were in his life for good. And they never got rid of him till the day he passed, unfortunately. But that's why they closed down the circle, because they lost control to these things. So one thing dealing with it, what they thought was spiritual, but you know what if it wasn't? It's all geared in a way that, it's the same thing, pretending to be, I'm spiritual, so. And that was
why exactly did they shut it down? Like what seminal incident happened that
there were references like things like there are thousands that could come through, and that was the worry. And it was interacting. They were following them back home. The phenomena followed them. There was hitchhiker, and it was NHI. It wasn't the paranormal stuff. It was something more ominous, and they couldn't get rid. There was no way. Well, what's that? And they realised they'd lost control. They were told it was dangerous, so they put it off straight away. Though that there was a few little advanced experiments done in Scotland, and a friend of mine and colleague, Nick Kyle from Scotland, was involved. That was about the manifestation of the UFOs in the seance area, and they were real UFOs, who just the interstate flights. It was just smaller. That's all. I mean, these weren't toys. They were, they were real. They were firing pencil beam lights down on the table, and it could move around, and it never leave the point of light on the table. It was amazing things they could do. And they brought in academics from all over the world who said we were trying to prove it wrong about this phenomena. And they brought in scientists and all sorts from all over the world. This was the SPR, the Society of Psychical Research, one of the most recognized establishments on the planet, for its authority in psychical research, which is paranormal, parapsychological. And these are the guys that want to come in and say, we really got to find an explanation. We want to find that explanation. We don't want it to be that. And they couldn't. And anybody who went there and experienced it, they had their own stories to tell. It's on YouTube, actually. All you've got to do is type in skull experiment interviews, and you can see all the academics and doctors and people that went. And when we saw it for ourselves, there's no explanation. And it's true, they were actually doing it. And then what happened when, after they finished the more, just for a few of them, the advanced areas of skull with Nick Kyle, I came along with what is referred to as Phenomena Project, which was an even further advancement of the skull, and started working in that area. And this is when these experiments started happening for us. So we realized that we can deal directly with that source. Well, this is what Jack Parsons did. He started doing the same type of practice in his home, and poltergeist infestation took place. Then he got Ron Hubbard as a scribe to come down, and they pushed through that boundary, the poltergeist boundary, until they reached NHI. And then they gave him the coordinates, because I always say it's the geological connection. When we talk about geology, the coordinates was the Mojave Desert. And what do these things want? Well, to make that connection stronger, there has to be an offering. And it's usually blood. It's always been blood sacrifice. Any day. Even our God, the Bible that we have, the Christian Bible, the Holy Bible. Our God, if you actually read it properly, he had his bad days. He did. He spited people. He demanded, kill your brother, kill your son. Blood sacrifice to me. That's our God. All these gods, all of them, be it Aztec, Inca, Mayan, our God, all the other gods, they're all the same thing. They all want the flock. They all want the worship. They all want there's lots of blood sacrifice. And they're still involved in blood sacrifice, which are at a bigger level now. Well, now people just press a button and wipe out 500,000 people.
Actually, funny you mentioned that. I'm going to tell a quick story. So, two friends and I went to a property that was adjacent to Skinwalker Ranch, right? And, on the way down, I was joking. I'm like, we were joking about blood sacrifice, just random stuff. Then, this is with one friend. The second friend shows up, and he starts talking about blood sacrifice. Didn't have a conversation at all. And then we get there, and we talk to the proprietor, and she's like, these are places you can go. These are places you can't. There's been some people here. Sometimes they'll cut themselves. It just gets really weird. Don't do that. But just again, this is the whole synchronicity thing. Okay. But it was weird. It was very weird. Anyway, I wanted to mention that because it's
invocation, Sean. It's exactly the same thing. Yeah. It's no different than anybody else. Alistair Crowley was doing the same thing. George Hunt Williamson, George Tantassel. Where did he go? He went to the Mojave Desert, quit his job as an aeronautics, took his family, went and lived under a rock, giant rock that is, in Mojave Desert. Mojave Desert, same place where Parsons was told to go geologically, and that's the location where you need to go and do this. And what happened when he did? He ended up with communication with NHIs. And what did he do? He obtained information with them to obtain details about advanced rocketry, which worked. Right. We have a space program because of them. It wasn't just happening to the Americans, it was happening to the Russians. Tchaikovsky was doing exactly the same thing, ritualistic practices, finding out how to build rockets, building them and getting us to space. They want to advance us quicker than we can. That's what they want, and they want the word out. And that's been going on. I mean, Stephen Hawking in the UK, was unfortunately no longer with us. But, he talks about how did you work out about the equations about gravity and getting to space and stuff like that. It came all in dreams, downloaded. It wasn't his information. I talked with David Adair, who's a good friend of mine, a rocket genius. I asked David about how did you get the information about building this incredible rocket for 8,480 miles an hour in 1970s. Like, what? Oh, I just got it every night. It was given to me in dreams. And then he just went and built it. It wasn't his information. And these people are called Muse, we call them Muse, and they're everywhere in regarding technology. Exactly the same thing. Nikola Tesla, spirit radio, communication. They're all invented exactly the same thing. Benjamin Franklin, who invented many different things, doing the same thing. There are so many of them that are in touch with the phenomena. But now it changes its appearance and it evades us. It grows with us. It amalgamates to what we think and at the time. Now, this phenomenon dates back thousands upon thousands of years back. It's the same phenomenon. In fact, we might be the new kids on the block, to be honest with you. It's the same phenomenon, and it has multiple masks. If you track the phenomena, you'll find it. If you track the mask, you'll lose it. Don't track the mask, because the mask is forever changing. And the churches know this. The churches have utilized it. St. Francis of Assisi, he wasn't an angel, he wasn't God, he wasn't Jesus. He was struck by energy from an object that descended upon him, and it burnt his hands. And then he said, "Oh, well, it's not burnt. Let's call it the wounds of Christ." Stigmata.
Right, stigmata.
He went on straight out after his experience to open up one of the world's first flying saucer cults, believe it or not. And there's loads of people in the Bible. If you look at the source material, I think Professor Diana Asulkas talked about this, recently. She got into the Vatican. 53. The Vatican is a library. It's like Alexander Library. It's not a temple. It's not a church. It's a library. It's 53 miles of it down there. They've been sourcing this material back before you can even imagine. And they've got all the source information about that. When she looked, and she probably shouldn't have done, but when she looked, because she gave it access, she gave her a key. I mean, I'd love to do that. She found the source material and found out, hang on a second, Teresa Arvales, that wasn't Cupid. It was a creature that thrusted some off her entrails. The church will have to change that. And they do. And he turned it from Cupid with the arrow. The arrow is the thing, But that was the representation of Cupid. And then he started changing that into the dove and the partridge and calling it the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit. If you see ancient paintings, biblical paintings, you see the dove with a pencil beam light coming down and hitting people on the forehead. That sort of stuff. That's the phenomena. We just change the aspects of it. So when the church turns around and says, let the Holy Spirit in, I'll revive myself on that, I think. It's all down to how you perceive it.
What do you make of the Bledsoe case?
It's very interesting. It's like targeted individuals. Absolutely. But you are targeted individuals. More so than I am, but I don't know why people are targeted. I've never had information to give me any idea of reasons why.
Well, here's something that's. Are you familiar with the Christopher Robinson? So one thing that he noted to me is that both he and Bledsoe almost died when they were very young. So Bledsoe was hit with like a shotgun during hunting when he was maybe 9 or same age too. I think it was like 9 or 10 years old. And then I think Christopher Robinson had a heart issue. He had one of the first heart operations or transplants, something like that, when he was like 9 or 10 years old.
Induced that way. Absolutely. It does happen with a lot of people, near-death experiences and stuff associated. The thing is, though, when I talk about this stuff, a lot of people go, "Oh God, it's all bad." So no, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that for years and years we've been sweeping all the negative stuff under the carpet, and it can't stay there anymore. It's got to be put out on the table and let people make their own mind up. There is only agenda. There has always only been agenda. If they come and you have a nice spiritual experience, then But brilliant. That's great. And they're employed, so, they're great to have. Or sometimes they're not. But let's not ignore them. Let's not ignore the fact that people have been killed. People are being killed. This phenomena targets people. Sometimes it doesn't care. There is a dark side to this. But we've got to just put it out on the table and say, this is what it represents. And this is why we're not going to get disclosure in the way we're ever going to get disclosure. They'll go round and round and round because the people in the top of the programs know a lot more about where this phenomena derives. And they had to generate a ruse years ago. And that ruse is, they're traveling from distant space. Well, how do we enforce that? Make every television show on the subject, that narrative, Star Trek, blockbuster movies, make it that they cannot get out of that narrative and keep it well away from the paranormal, don't want people connecting the dots, and this is why it's generated. But now you've got Leslie Keane that's come forward, a very prominent person in the US who's come out, national papers picked it up, UFOs consist of supernatural and paranormal. Do you know how she came to that conclusion? I'll tell you how she
what's his name? His name is Stewart something.
Well, how she came to real that conclusion. Yes, she's been involved in a number of different things, but she came to that conclusion after spending pretty much a year in the UK and witnessing some of the experiments. And it's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about UFOs. How many people have seen them? She may have never seen one. But when this phenomenon is happening in front of her during our experiments, then when she sees things like that, she's going to say, what the hell? It's all connected. She's connected the dots. And now she's talking about what we talked about 8 years ago. We've got announced three things 8 years ago. The first change, you're going, this is why this document is only coming out now. They were waiting for these three things, these markers. The first marker is, the first thing that will happen is that the ETH, the terminology, will drop aside and be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Think about the reason why they're doing that. Secondly, is that people will be utilized to distribute information to a large audience about the paranormal connotations of UFOs, just like Leslie Keane and other people. Well, I know astrophysicists. Elizondo is now talking about that. In fact, he says in a very interesting interview, when we really find out what's it all about at the end of it, I think it will be a very somber moment. Well, yeah, I agree, Elizondo, absolutely, because some people will not know how to deal with this, and that's a big problem. And third marker was that we're going to see people in academic places. Diana, for one, who's come out, Pasulka. She's a professor. She's come out and she's telling the world what she's found. There are astrophysicists. There are doctors. I've got a list of 40 of them. We would never have talked about this sort of stuff. And now they're coming out and saying it. That was the third marker. Now it's ready to release our document because people are accepting that now. So when we release our document, it's going to be basically telling them that this phenomenon has always been here. It's been right under their nose, and we cannot control it, we cannot master it, and we are puppets on the string. It's not nice to hear, but it's true. And it's not a matter of managing this phenomena. It's about compliance, as if holding out the best word I can put there. Learning to live with it. Because, things are changing. And like I say, they all want the flock at the end of the day. They did it, they did it with Lourdes, the most religious place in the world. Millions of people travel there every year. You look at the original source material of St. Benedict. She didn't see Mary. She actually confronted the church about it. I didn't see Mary. What she said is she saw that thing in the cave and it communicated with her. That's not the first time. Exactly the same sort of thing is reported to have happened to Leonardo da Vinci. He stayed in a cave in France and was communicating. Where did he get his inspiration for all this stuff? He's a muse. He's no different than the rocket geniuses and Tesla and all these people have managed to build things and create things well ahead of time. He was another one doing the same thing. And there are hundreds of them.
Now, when you say the three markers, did you set the markers or did the phenomena set the markers?
That's a good question. Really good question. Well, at the time, we realized that we can't release this. We can't be the first people a scientific study, SCP, to go out and deliver this and be the first people to it. We need the general public to be in acceptance or hearing it from somewhere else. And then what we do is then we can kind of ease in. That's the process. We can never be the first. That's kind of a process that we deal with. We don't want to, hey guys, this is, and be, trying to be revolutionary doesn't work in this subject, It's a matter of small steps and digestible chunks. And we had to wait for those markers. We knew it was going to happen. When myself and Barry mentioned it 8 years ago, we said, wait for it. It's going to happen. People said, oh, don't be daft. Don't be stupid. And we thought, okay, we'll just wait. And it's happening. It's illuminating our work now, of course. And now it's being recognized that this is the right time to release information because there's already a footprint out there for it to be delivered to, rather opposed on being the first to the stage.
Now, have you had any communication or have you interfaced at all with the Ministry of Defense or, the American equivalent, the Pentagon? Have they approached? I mean, you mentioned Hal Puthoff, so there's like a...
Okay, well, it's funny because this is the second time I've been asked this in a week. I was asked to go onto a show in America, and there was a gentleman there who I know. He's been in very high places with the US government. And he was on the phone with somebody else, or on a call, there was another computer, there was some other guys there, called the Advanced Working Group. I don't know who the Advanced Working Group were. And he was getting questions from them to ask me on the show. I thought, what? And the first question was, am I having involvement with MI5 or MI6 in the UK? Like, no, you think I am James Bond? What about
the right answer is that you know of?
Yeah. I mean, it's any involvement with CIA and that sort of stuff. And no. I mean, I know my stuff because I've always had one foot in that camp since 7 years of age, and we've done the research in the right way to illuminate the phenomena. We've escaped the ruse and what people would prefer us to believe and got off evidence. If you go off the evidence, then you believe don't come into it. But it was intriguing. No, I haven't had, and though I was at NATO for a while in engineering, but that was a short-lived thing and didn't do that for that very long. And that's really, everything else has been this work, to be honest with you, full time, and just plowed at it for years and years. Of course, you know what, it's not always easy because making ends meet in this subject, if you want to earn the real good money for this, it's not the job for you,
Right.
But I started doing TV work and I ended up writing some stuff and I ended up being on shows. I've been on loads now, it's too many to remember. Radio, writing, tutoring, lecturing, the research, the investigation, documentation. It's just a mountain of things. We like to do 10 times more than the person just normally working to make those men's meet. But I just plow everything back into the research because I want to learn as much as I possibly can while I'm here on Earth. Because, to be honest, time goes fast on it, Sean. It goes faster as time goes on, to be honest with you. That illusion of our brains getting ready for ready for death. It's going to happen to all of us. It's a natural process of state. And we've done lots of research into that area as well. But it comes to time when you think, what is more? Is there? There's got to be more to life than this. And asking the important questions. Because at least I might be able to leave a little bit of footprint behind where others might pick up and say, okay, I'm going to continue this research. Because I think we are gearing up in regarding nearing the truth. A truth that we might not want to hear,
right?
But let's not think that we do have some control here because we have this consciousness about us. And that is a very, very important aspect to all this phenomena. People have had a foot in the camp for a while and just never knew because they have consciousness. It's as simple as that. So for me, it's about, that's the journey. It's got to be more than just this.
Now, you mentioned something, I kind of let you go on it but it's intriguing. You said something about, or implied that they had control, and we might as well just come to the make our peace with that. And so, is this the phenomena control mechanism that kind of prods and pushes humanity forward, or is it something that is trying to retard our progress, or is it we have no idea?
I don't know. The thing is how we look at this. We've always considered it as an external force, an external intelligence. But what if that is the reality? This is a program. It's a program. The phenomenon is a program, and it learns to adapt. And if it doesn't work the first time, or you see through the veil, it will change its appearance and change the way it does stuff to make it work the second time. It learns, it takes our information and utilizes it against us. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, it makes silly mistakes sometimes. You don't get it right sometimes. And that's the proof in the pudding, because, we might have an incident that took place in, modern times when the UFO had portholes and rivets on the windows, and you think,
right.
Yeah,
or airships in the 1890s.
Exactly the same. They don't always get it right. It's quite funny, but it's how the program would work. You can expect the program to kind of do that, but they learn and evolve. They're always evolving. They evade, evolve, deceive. They don't want us to figure it out. Maybe not supposed to all figure it out. We are supposed to accept the fact that, who is God and what is God and what are deities, what are demons, what are angels? Well, all these non-human intelligences, whatever they are, they all seem to be coming from the same source. And I don't think we need to be scared of it, because it's always been there. It's just because we've illuminated it now, going, oh my God, what's that stood in the corner? Well, that's reality, just kind of seeing it for the first time. And I think that's part of us growing and consciously. And we have to accept that there is, people have good experiences, people not so good experiences, people have some really bad experiences. But it is just a gender, no different than the gods and how gods would treat us, But there's something in it, and they are intelligent, they're always watching, and this is why the space program throughout the world is all based on that. And this is why, even up to current day, as Paloska said, the launches and things that are happening that we don't get to hear about, they're all significantly detailed ritualistic aspects to it, to the whole launch, to the whole program, even down to the badges that they wear that you don't often see and have alien faces on and all that sort of thing. On the side of the rockets, they've got ancient Latin, Enochian in some cases, all sorts of different things. And it's like, we must pay homage, because that's how we got to space. This is why, when astronauts landed on the moon, before planting the American flag, the Masonic flag went in. They've talked about this, the astronauts. Masonic flag goes in first, not the American flag. It's all about homage, because we wouldn't got there if it wasn't for them. And we're still doing it today. It's still happening now that we are gaining information, to advance ourselves. That's what they want us to do. They want us to advance ourselves. So, but I think we need to advance here as well, consciously, and we are doing. We're playing catch up.
Yeah, that's basically what the lady with Bledsoe kind of explained, that we're like gardeners and we're here to tend the garden. And
I have not come from the UFO side. I've come from the paranormal side, and then just realized, it's all the same.
Yeah. That one's like, he will tell you, he won't insist it's UFOs, even though it's kind of put into that category. He would say it's more of a spiritual phenomenon. But I think
it's easy to manage it, though, isn't it? That idealism of these vast distances of space they're going from. Of course, they're all bipedal, got 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes. You want to see something alien, just go to the bottom of the North Sea. It sounds too much bit like a Star Trek episode, that they're all coming from various planets, all a bit.
Yeah. Well, look, I can come up with any number of scenarios that could explain it, right? Maybe we were seeded, like a panspermia thing, and they've been here all along. I think there's the one thing that is common throughout. I think they've been here for a very long time, whatever they are. If they're either, came from here, if they came from a distance, they've always, not always, but they've been here.
I think they passed. I think they've said things, and this, they've said, we come from this planet. I mean, in the 1920s, and
it keeps changing, right?
Back to the moon. So in 1920s, back to the moon. What, All right, so there might be probably a US base in the back of the moon. I don't know, but that might not be the case. Of course, in that the case, then we've come from Venus.
Right.
And now it's like, we came, in the 70s, it came from Mars. And now it's another planet, and they're going further and further and further out.
Zeta Reticuli.
Always beyond reach.
Yeah.
Always beyond reach. Because the thing is, it's right here on something. You want the phenomenon, it's right here under our noses. Yeah. And sometimes, they don't like us prying into certain things. There are some research myself and Barry's been involved in Project Doorway, which they didn't want us to get into, and we got the old slap on the hand for that. And sometimes we have to, with the protocol means we have to respite now between certain parts of research because they don't want us looking into certain areas. And when they do, it's not a nice experience when they come visiting. And
what are those areas? I probably shouldn't ask that question, but I can't stop.
Right. Well, let me just say, one of those areas because we're doing research regarding so without getting too involved, it was Sumerian demonology. But Sumerian demons are dogmen. Why are people seeing dogmen, werewolves, those sort of cryptic phenomena? The cryptic phenomenon in the UK, and don't know if it applies to the US, but the cryptic phenomenon in the UK is a physical poltergeist. It's a fear feeder. They're not predators in the sense we think of predators when they chase you and chase you and chase you and scare you to death and incite and and also bring on fear, induce it purposely. Terrified, not very terrified people fall to the ground. All they can do is freeze and hope in that instinctual thing, like that rabbit caught in headlights. If I don't move, it won't see me, which is a waste of time. This thing gets up to the top and it's huge, it's growling, it's big fangs, and the people see these things. I know they have these experiences because I've witnessed some of these things. I know how the phenomena can manifest in anything you want. And what's it do? Well, any predator we know what's going to do, don't we? There's dinner's on the floor ready and it's not running away, No, it doesn't. After it reaches that point, it's kind of, what we're going to do, and it just runs away. It's all about the fear. It's all about generation. And it's just the same as poltergeist phone. Poltergeist phone is a fear-feeding parasite. This is a physical fear-feeding parasite. That's what it does. It wants to cause the same actions.
The answer to this is most assuredly no, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Has anyone ever confronted one of these things, like run at it?
Oh, no.
I didn't think so.
No, because it induces it. You know what? This phenomenon presses our buttons, just like sleep paralysis and everything. It can reach it. It knows your deepest fears, and it will heighten them a 100% more. Where you're not scared anymore. You are terrified. I mean, terrified to the point where you just want to curl up and die. Terrified. It's beyond normal. People have had these experiences in the backyard. They're comfortable. They know the location. Why should they fear? And they get confused as well. They're called, where am I? Sort of thing. Well, you should know where you are. It's called cognitive limitation. It happens. That phenomena does that. That's why people don't take photographs when they've got a camera in their hand. It's cognitive limitation. You can do that as well. This phenomena, it's about fear feeding. It's the same phenomenon, but a different method and a different master of producing it. We have it in the UK, and it's all part and parcel of the same thing. But when we got into Sumerian demonology, we couldn't help get into some of the Babylonian stuff. We didn't expect to get into that area, but it's the same stuff. Crowley did a little bit of that, but it's not supernatural, really. It's just ancient,
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't get into it until we just skirted around, but whatever we did, they didn't like it. Barry lives in Ireland, and I live in the UK. And it started off after doing that days of research, just coming home, and around about, I think it was about 5:30 in the evening, I just had to get up and go outside. I just occasionally have that. It's like a taste of a lemon. You never forget the taste. You don't if you're an experiencer. I knew, okay, all right. So, and I do, and I go outside the back door, and there's a not a light in the sky, there's a craft in the sky. And I took video, took photographs of it, and it's just sat there. And basically, okay, and it just sat there. And it sat there. And eventually I got bored. I went in. I just did. And I see a lot of these things regularly. And I did. And it was a topic of conversation. Yeah, it's another one. We're used to it in my household. And if you're with me, you'll experience that as well. Not just me, anybody in my circle experience. And it's a topic of conversation quite a lot because anybody I'm with a partner and that, they would be, we just have these experiences. But I was honest with her when I first met her. I said, look, you're going to experience some weird shit. You are, because my life's been that. And it was like, oh, yeah. Until it happens. And we've had all sorts of things. She argues with me, please please stop bringing my work home with me, you know. But on that particular night, that's how it started. And then it was the early hours of morning, around about 3:05. Interesting time. I got up to go to the laboratory, and I got back in bed, and I just turned over just to get comfy, and an arm came up from under the bed, through the bed, and round me, and the other one came over me, and this thing grabbed hold of me. As I normally do, I'm furious, you know. I don't scare, I'm furious, I'm angry, I'm fighting this thing off. And I struggled to get this thing off. In the meantime, the process of that was I'd ripped the bed covers off, the pillows on the floor, the duvet, it was half ripped off, and yet my partner didn't wake up. She wakes up, a little drop of it, she didn't wake up. And I knew then it's phenomena. And this thing, eventually I did. But then I was up the rest of the night because I was just anxious and angry. And I thought to myself, first thing I'll do, I'll wait till about 8:30 in the morning. And I'll ring Barry and tell him what happened. And I did. And I got hold of Barry. And surprisingly, he picked up the phone quite quick. Normally it's like, he's up at 8:30, okay. I said, Barry, I said, I've got something to tell you. He said, hang on. Let me tell you what happened here last night, he said. I go, what happened? He said, all hell broke loose. There was a thing in the bedroom. My wife was screaming. It ripped out the light fittings in the kitchen. This thing was not happy. And I said, well, when was this? He said, the early hours of the morning. I said, not even, do you know what? It's probably happening to him at the same time as happened to me. This is when we're getting a slap on the hand. Back off. Respite. You know, don't be poking your nose in too fast too soon. He doesn't like it. This phenomenon, because we've been involved in it, myself and Barry, and you know, and other colleagues of mine, so long, the door's never shut. They peek in and watch us, monitoring us, what we're doing. Sometimes I think it's just a matter of, I don't like that, you're annoying us. And when we're writing a book at the moment, myself and Barry, and there's respites involved because of the stuff we're putting in there. But sometimes things come with completely, we're pretty attuned, and we're not, I won't say psychic, but we're tuned, you know. It's like, we know when one of these things is around. Sometimes something comes out when you have no idea this thing was even there. You know, your normal warning mechanisms, and I do have good warning mechanisms because, you know, I'm used to depriving myself of refined sugar because it causes adrenal weakness. I need my body to react, and it didn't. There are things that can be blind, completely blind to us, be right in front of us. We have no warning mechanism. Most of the time we do, but sometimes they have things that don't. So you have to respite through some of the stuff that we do as well, because we've got families, you know, we've got partners, and we don't want the hitchhike because it can be bad. It can rip through a household with a tremendous amount of negativity, just as it did with Bigelow and poltergeist stuff. And then he's losing his family members one by one, and then a dog, and all sorts of problems, financial, all everything. And he said, I wish I'd never conducted some of those experiments. I know what some of those experiments were. I wish I'd never been involved in some of those experiments at Skinwalker. It was the experiments, the enticing, the invocation that causes the problem. And 3 other Nick guys that said, and they had to say, I'm never going back there. Well, I don't blame them. You know, it's a taste. There's a sting in the tail on sometimes. And they tracked it back home, and they had some. I don't want that. I can't afford to have that. So I have to pace myself being involved in certain aspects of this phenomena. But at small amount on a regular basis, not a large amount. Small amount on a regular basis, I would say.
All right, Steve, I think we went way over, but I couldn't stop you because every word you're saying, I'm hanging on. So, and I'm sure the audience will too. So I very much appreciate this. And
Welcome, Sean.
You have so much material we should revisit, or not even revisit.
Yeah, keep in touch. You know, I'm always doing as much as I can because that's what I'm doing. I do it because I need the information out. I won't let people know. There's so many people out there hold this research to the chest and go, what is the point of doing it? Why do you do it? It's like, oh, it's mine. Well, why though? Why are you doing it? It's got to be out there. People need to know something. And the thing is, there's evidence to back this stuff up. So, and the good thing is that we are moving slowly in the right location. Slowly, it'll be a slow trip to get there, but there's learning involved and it's digestible, but we will get there. And Nathaniel's exactly the same. He does exactly the same thing. You know, it's about educating people. It's not about scaring them. It's about just laying it all out and letting them make their own mind up.
Exactly. I think that's the key, because there are a lot of compelling theories out there, but they're not. I don't think we're ever going to know, but people need to be aware that there is a phenomena out there.
Oh, come on.
That,
But it doesn't,
right?
it doesn't want it to be all worked out. That's why it's called a phenomenon of absurdity, because it's absurdity because people won't believe what you've seen. That's why it's got so many faces, so many variations. Project Blue Book listed over 12 million variations. 12 million. Project Blue Book, 12 million variations in the phenomenon.
How do they count that? I mean, like, it would take you years to just count.
Yeah, the collation of data.
Yeah.
Different shapes, different sizes, different things been seen. 12 million. And it's still going, probably, because it can be anything. Anything from an animated toy to whatever, it can be anything. And then they realise, obviously, that's the case. But, it's all part and parcel of the same thing. We all know, the researchers know this. And a lot of people do know, but it's not an easy pill to swallow. And that's because we've been taught to fear the devils and the demons and all that sort of thing. And it's the narrative, really. The problem is everybody's got a horse in the race and they want us to believe what they say and stuff. And the bottom line is that phenomena represents it all. It just interacts in many, many ways. The program, I'd say.
All right. Well, thank you very much, my friend. And we will definitely talk soon.
Thanks, Sean. Keep in touch, and thanks for having me on the show. And I look forward to going back on.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support, because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. The third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that, and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of an expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's 2 options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site, and there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much, and keep watching. I really appreciate it.